Okay, the next step is to remove the two screws located under the control head. And those are two Phillips screws that are right here. And then we're going to remove the control head out. So I'm going to use my stubby Phillips screwdriver to remove those, because my console is in the way of using any other tools. Alright, so it slides out the back side. We've got lights that are in there, light sockets on each side. We have to remove. Looks like I've got some other wiring that's wrapped up in it. Okay, I've got a 3-wire connector that's on the back of it that I had to pull off. I've got my 3 cables from the original heater box that I've got to fish out of there. Looks like they're wrapped up in my radio wires. So we just have to carefully pull them out. The next step is to remove the 3 original cables, and it says retain their original hardware. And these screws are 1/4 inch. They have a 1/4 inch head on them. So we use a 1/4 inch nut driver to remove them. Alright, the next step says to locate the original control assembly and remove and discard the original blower switch and discard all the original hardware. So it's talking about this control assembly here, and it's held on by 2 screws with Phillips heads. Alright, the next step is, it says locate the template that's in the back of the instructions, and you got to cut out the slotted hole and the hole for the OEM. We're going to have to mark and drill 2 holes in this to mount the new switch. So I've already cut it out, and I can lay it down here and line it up with those, and I'm going to try to just drill it right through the template. At least good enough to mark it. And that's with a 7/64 bit. Alright, both holes are drilled. Now it says locate the blower switch using 2 number 6 panhead screws. So looks like it's going to go just like this. And we got the 2 small screws here. Lost it right in front of me. Screws actually get really good. Alright, so we got the 2 screws mounted. The next thing, it says to put this cable. It's a little short cable that comes in the kit. It says put the cable in the, mount it right here. So you have to remove this original grommet, I guess, because it doesn't line up good. And they did give us new, they call them push nuts to retain the cables on there. So we have those new. And it says push that on. Alright, the next step, it says to locate the wiring harness from the bag and plug it onto the back of the new switch. Alright, so we got that plugged on. And then it says locate the long and short cables. And it says attach the longest cable. And of course they're connected with a zip tie also. It says attach the longest cable to the using the original hardware from the center control arm and a 1/3/16 push nut, which is one of the original parts. So the new parts that come with this is these little metal plates, and they take the place of the original clamps. They clamp the cable into place, and it does come with the new push nuts, they call them. But you lay your cable down into this slot, and it's been a little difficult. But you lay your cable down into the slot, and you put your bolt back into the original hole. And again, use the nut driver. And I'm sure this can be adjusted as needed. Just tighten it down and let the black piece clamp onto it. And then put your push nut on there to hold the cable. And that works really well. So then the cable just is operated by the center switch. And we'll also, now we'll do the small one. It says attach the shortest cable to the bottom arm using one push nut and the original screw, and it'll be just like the other one is. Alright, the next step is to locate the original wire harness that was attached to the blower switch and cut the connector off and attach a 1/4" male spade connector to the brown wire. So I've already located it. It's the one that's got the 4 plugs on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the wires. We can cut off the plug like it said. And I've already stripped the brown wire. So I just have to crimp a connector onto it. Alright, so I got it on there. Now I just got to use my crimping tool. Alright, so it's crimped on there good and it's tight. And it says to attach the red with white stripe wire from the blower switch to the brown wire from the original harness. So this is my red and white stripe, red wire with white stripe coming from the blower switch, and it's got the female 1/4" spade terminal. So I'm connecting those together, and there we go, that's connected together. And then it says go ahead and insert the light sockets back into the control head and reinstall the control head using the original hardware. So here we are with this, and my light sockets are hanging there, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in there back where they belong, one on each side. Alright, so now I'm going to slide this back up into place. I'm going to take my 2 screws that I took out to start with. Use my stubby Phillips screwdriver to put them back in place. And of course, make sure it's slid into place before you do that. Alright, so now our controls are upgraded and they're put back into place. Alright, the next step it tells us to do is drill a hole for the temperature cable and the clutch wire just to the right of the top firewall plug. You can see I got my drill to the right of the firewall plug. The plug that attaches it to the firewall. And it doesn't specify the drill bit size. I just looked at what's in there and I ended up using a 7/16. And I've already looked on the other side to make sure that it's not going to be hitting anything. And my drill bit's getting caught in the sheet metal. The next step says to locate the evaporator. That's this part, air distribution duct assembly, and it tells us to use 4 number 10 5/8 panhead screws to attach this to this. And we had to sit and think about it for a minute. This is the correct orientation for it. So it's already, we've got the screws here, and it has the built-in nuts into the unit. So getting it all lined up is a little tricky. This is the way it's supposed to go. Alright, now it says it tells us to put to lift the unit up behind the glove box opening, and it said be sure the defrost outlet from the new inserts into the original defroster, and it did. It's kind of hard to see. It's up in the area that's hard to get on camera. It was pretty difficult to do this part. I had to have help to get me to help align it. And then it says there's a mounting stud that's on the back of this that goes through one of the original holes, and you can see it up here on the front. Once you basically have to align the defrost duct, and you have to align this drain. This is a new drain for the air conditioner, and then you have to, this stud will go through this original hole, and you put the nut on there, and once you do, it's actually in a good spot then, and you don't have to support it. It's not as hard to support. So that was probably one of the more difficult things I've done yet that required me to have an extra hand.